Welcome to Living Beyond the Invisible, the podcast that explores life with invisible disabilities. I'm your host, Heather, and today we are going to discuss the broad and often misunderstood topic, invisible disabilities. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Living Beyond the Invisible. I am so excited to begin this journey with you. In this episode, I want to share with you what invisible disabilities are, why I started this podcast, and what you can expect from future episodes. I do want to take a moment here right at the beginning and give you guys all a warning. Don't worry, it's not a bad warning. I do deal with cognitive disabilities, cognitive impairments due to one of my invisible disabilities, which I will explain in greater detail in episode 3. But please note that I sometimes forget what I'm going to say. I forget words. I pause because my brain just kind of freezes. All the things. I could edit those out. However, I feel like that's being I lost the word. I don't feel like that's being genuine. Because this whole podcast is about invisible disabilities and living with them and functioning with them. And I feel like if I edit all of those things out that happen with my, my foggy brain, that's just not, that's pretending that they're not happening. And I don't like that. And that's not genuine to me. So we're going to leave those in. I hope you guys can bear with those and bear with me on those and understand where I'm coming from on that. So let's get started. Let's start off with what to expect from not only this episode, but future episodes as well. My plan is to discuss as much as possible about invisible disabilities of all kinds, even ones I don't personally have. The first 5 or so episodes will be based on my own medical and health struggles, as well as my invisible disabilities. From there, we will branch out and discuss other invisible disabilities. We will have a few guests on the show and just explore the entire world of living with invisible disabilities. If you are curious about how long each of the podcast episodes will last, I'm going to be honest with you here and say it will honestly depend on the topic, how much research I can find on it, what I have to say on it, if I have a guest or not on that episode. But most episodes will be around the 25 or 30-minute mark, with a few creeping closer to 45 minutes. None of my episodes will really go longer than 45 minutes unless it is like a special episode, like with maybe a special guest or something like that. And I will completely warn you guys beforehand. I'll be like, hey, I've got so-and-so coming on the show and this episode could go longer. I will totally let you know that ahead of time. All right, let's get started with talking about what invisible disabilities are. According to the accessibility.com website, roughly 61 million adults in the U.S., or I guess that's approximately 26% of all of the adult population in the U.S. live with a disability of some type. Now, roughly 20% of U.S. adults have an invisible disability. So those numbers should give you a little bit of an idea about how prevalent invisible disabilities are in the United States. The differences between visible and invisible disabilities highlight the need for broad awareness and inclusive practices that help support everyone with disabilities, regardless of whether they are invisible or visible. Now, before we get too far into this, I do want to say that I am not bashing or bad-mouthing anyone with a visible disability. Disabilities are hard, no matter what. All I am doing here is highlighting the need for awareness on invisible disabilities because you cannot see those. So I hope that helps clear some things up. An invisible disability is any physical, mental, or neurological condition that isn't visible from the outside, but can limit or challenge a person's movements, senses, or activities. Some examples include fibromyalgia, osteoarthritis, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and various mental health issues, just to name a few. These conditions often come with their own set of challenges, not just because of the symptoms, but also because they are not immediately apparent to others. This can lead to misunderstandings, lack of support, and even skepticism about the legitimacy of the condition. In fact, some of these invisible disabilities are hard to even diagnose and have limited information because they are so rare. That makes it even harder for others to understand what you're going through or really even believe that you are going through it. I know personally, I've had people question whether I even have a disability because I look fine or I don't look sick. Trust me, looks can be very deceiving and you can't always see disabilities. I want to just give you a little bit of an example. This will be quick, I promise. But I have a disability placard that you get where you can park in the disability parking spots at stores and places like that. I have one because of my congenital heart defects, and we will talk about more about those in episode 2. But now it is also for like my fibromyalgia and my osteoarthritis and all the things. But I do have one. I don't always use it. If I'm having a good day and there's a parking spot that's kind of close, I won't use it. I will park in a regular spot and I will walk. However, if there's not a parking spot close, or I'm not feeling well, or it's really cold or really hot, I will use that spot. I am not trying to take a spot away from someone else with a disability. I legitimately need it. The reason I'm telling you this is because I have so many times had people actually physically come up to me and tell me I am wrong for using that spot, that I don't need that spot. I'm not sick. And I usually just walk away, but there are times that I look at them and I will flat out tell them, well, I may not look sick, but you don't look stupid either, yet here we are. And I know that's not nice. That is not the Christian thing to do, and I am working on it. But I get irritated because you wouldn't walk up to someone who you can clearly see has a disability and tell them they shouldn't use it. I don't think you should walk up to anyone and tell them they shouldn't use it because you have no idea what they are going through. Sorry, that's just a big pet peeve of mine. But moving on, I decided to start this podcast because I live with several invisible disabilities myself. I've experienced firsthand the difficulties of managing daily life while dealing with pain, fatigue, and the emotional toll these conditions can take. I've also faced the frustration of not being understood or believed by those around me. So quick story time. I know we just had one. Sorry. I do this a lot. My husband and I were in the Smoky Mountains a few weeks ago for my birthday. I just recently turned 40, and that's the only, after the year and a half I've had, and we'll talk about that later, I wanted to go to the mountains, just me and him, for my birthday. Because if you know me, which I know many of you do not, but the mountains are truly my favorite place to be. They are so peaceful and so relaxing, and I find that spending time in the mountains allows me to be closer to God in a lot of ways. But while we were there, we were looking for things that I could do without causing my body too much stress and pain. We did end up just driving around through the mountains, and we went over to Cades Cove, which I absolutely love doing. And if you have never been to the Smoky Mountains, I highly suggest you go, and definitely go to Cades Cove because it is absolutely gorgeous. Sorry. But not being able to hike the trails or get out at Cades Cove and explore the different buildings they have, and not being able to do a whole lot of walking in general makes me feel so sad. I feel like I'm missing out on all the stuff. And I'm missing out on so very much because of my disabilities. And that is something that unfortunately is never going to change, because those disabilities are here to stay. Now, it was while we were on our way back to the hotel when I decided that I wanted to start this podcast. I'd been kicking around the idea for a while because I know I'm not alone in these feelings. But I decided right then and there on the way back to the hotel that I was going to do this. I also know that most people have no clue what it's like to deal with everything that those of us with invisible disabilities deal with on a daily basis. So my hope is that through this podcast, I can work to create a space where we share our stories, find practical solutions, and most importantly, support each other. At this time, I want to give you a brief overview of my medical history and the challenges I've faced. I was born with a severe congenital heart defect, or CHD. I've also been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, osteopenia, osteoarthritis, and I have a history of breast cancer. So as you can see, I know the challenges of invisible disabilities very well. I'm not going to go into the description of these disabilities and illnesses in this episode, but I will break them down in future episodes. In fact, all of them are going to have their own episode except for osteopenia because I can just mention it in other ones. I feel the reason I'm doing separate episodes is because I feel like each one really does deserve its own episode, so I can explain it. I can talk about how it makes me feel on a daily basis and why it's important to have awareness for these things. And I know someone's going to call me out and they're going to be like, breast cancer isn't always a disability. And I know that. I do. But it can be a disability. And I feel like for me, it is part of my overall journey. And it does play into my other disabilities that have, caused extra problems for me in the long run. So I do feel it is very important to give it its own episode and to really talk about it, because I know I'm not the only one out there struggling with these issues. So real quick, let me give you a glimpse into my daily life with trying to manage my multiple invisible conditions. Like I said, I will dive deeper into my daily life in a future episode, but this will give you an idea of what a typical day is like. First, I don't sleep well at all. I do suffer from sleep apnea as well, so I do have a CPAP machine, and it does give me a little relief, but we will talk about that in episode 3 in greater detail. But I do wake up tired every single day. I also wake up in pain, and I go to bed tired and in pain every single day. It's rough. There are days that I struggle to get out of bed because my pain is high and my body is stiff. Some days just getting out of bed and dressed is a huge obstacle. Now, depending on how my morning goes and how hard it was to get out of bed and get dressed, and how much pain I'm in that morning, will tell me how the rest of the day is going to go. There are days where once I get out of bed and dressed, I have no more energy to do anything else. Some days just getting out of bed is my biggest accomplishment, if I'm being completely honest with you. On those days, I am unable to do much. Even though I do tend to push myself, some, but usually pushing myself is just, to be able to get dressed, comb my hair, make myself breakfast, or, other meals throughout the day. Otherwise, on those days, I only move when I have to. Now I do want to say not every day is a bad day. Some days I'm able to get up and get some things done around the house, such as I can do a little bit of cleaning or I can do some crafting. But even on those days, my energy is limited and I have to make conscious decisions about what exactly I'm going to do that day. Living like this is so exhausting and disappointing. There are so many things that I can't do because of my disabilities. There have been so many times where I've had to cancel plans because of how I feel and my pain or energy levels. There are times that my husband has to come home from work after working all day and cook dinner because I don't have the energy to do it. And my pain won't allow it, or I can't stand because of my pain. Living with invisible disabilities is 100% a continuous learning process. It's something that requires a lot of patience, an ability to pivot when things get rough, and also a ton of self-compassion, which is truthfully so dang hard most days. If I'm being honest, most days I am so unbelievably hard on myself and my inability to live a normal life. Living with invisible disabilities also causes your mental health to suffer as well. It's so isolating, so debilitating, and just so lonely. But on the flip side, it's also an opportunity to discover new strengths that you had no clue you were capable of. I've learned so much about myself and my abilities over the last several years. So before we end this episode today, I want to share just a few tips and resources that I have learned along the way that can help. It may not work for you, but it is, it's things that I have found does help for me. Number 1, learn to pace yourself. Pace yourself and plan your day as much as absolutely possible. I know that isn't always possible, but if you can, do it. You also need to plan breaks and rest periods so your body has time to recover, especially after you've done a lot of physical activity. Doing this can help manage energy levels and prevent burnout. So it is definitely important. I try to mentally plan my day the night before. Does it always work out? No, of course not. But I do try my hardest to do that, especially now with the podcast. I try to make sure that I am working on it first thing in the morning before my brain fog gets too crazy and before my pain and energy levels go completely through the roof. Well, energy levels drop, pain go through the roof. I think you know what I mean. All right, number 2. Another thing that I have learned to do is practice deep breathing exercises. You can Google them. You can look up some on YouTube. There's apps for it. Just find something though that helps to relax your mind, body, and spirit. Another thing I do that kind of goes along with this is, I get in the hot tub or a hot bath or just stand under the shower. And we will talk about that more in a future episode, but the hot water does help. Number 3, find support groups or connect with others who have similar disabilities. Finding these communities can help with emotional support as well as advice that is specific to you and your disability. Social media is a great place to find these communities. You can also join the Living Beyond the Invisible Facebook group or Instagram page. Those are, well, the Facebook page, I don't have a group yet. I'm working on it. But that's also a great way to connect with others who have disabilities. My goal for my social media accounts is to build a place for us to learn, advocate, share stories, and truthfully support one another. And finally, number 4, my last tip I can give you, at least for now, is to educate yourself and advocate for your needs. You are your biggest advocate. Well, let me repeat that. You are your biggest advocate and should always communicate your needs with your healthcare providers as well as anyone else who is in your life. If your healthcare providers are not taking you seriously, you need to get a second opinion. And I say that after having gone through multiple second, third, fourth, fifth opinions. You are your biggest advocate. Please always remember that. All right, so now, if you are listening to this podcast, but you don't have an invisible disability and you're wondering if you should keep listening, please, please, please do. I guarantee you that you know someone who has an invisible disability, even if you don't realize it. Plus, it can help you deal with the public in general. It is so important for everyone to be aware of how these conditions affect everyone, not just the people who have been diagnosed with them. You can help love, support, raise awareness, and advocate for those of us who do have invisible disabilities. Trust me, we need your help. So that is all I have for you today. I know that I have given you a lot of information, some detailed, some a little vague. I promise I will share more details in future episodes. I can't wait to share more of my experiences with you. Our next episode will focus on congenital heart defects, what they are, and how they affect me personally. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Living Beyond the Invisible. I hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Remember, living with an invisible disability is a journey, and together we can navigate the challenges and celebrate the triumphs. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support helps me reach more listeners and build a stronger community. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Living Beyond the Invisible for updates and additional resources. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep living beyond the invisible.